Hello, welcome back to the videos for a Wise Woman Ministry out of St. Paul Parish in Pensacola, Florida. We hope you've joined us before. It's titled A Wise Woman Builds Her House, based on Proverbs 14:1, which says, "The wise woman builds her house, but the foolish one tears it down with her own hands." Today our topic is Total, Faithful, Transforming, God's Plan for Marriage. And my name is Deb. We hope that you will invite many more to share this with you. I'm reading from Genesis chapter 2. Then the Lord said, "It is not good that man should be alone. I will make a helper fit for him." And the rib which the Lord God had taken from the man, he made into a woman and brought her to the man. Then the man said, "This at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man leaves his father and his mother and cleaves to his wife, and they become one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked, and they were not ashamed. And they become one flesh." That's one flesh, not two separate persons. The union completes us in one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked, and they were not ashamed, because they had no sin in them, no inclination for sin, but pureness and authentic spousal love. Genesis 1. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. This is the unveiling of God's original plan for the beauty of human love, in the image of God's love, and is stamped into our hearts and into our bodies. These comments for man cannot attain true happiness unless he keeps the laws which God has engraved into his very nature. Come from Pope St. John Paul II's Wednesday teachings. You might know them as Theology of the Body, or as Love and Responsibility, the above previous comments. St. John Paul II referred to married sexual love as speaking the language of the body. This was big news in 1979, that a pope was talking about sexual love in his public addresses. In 1979 was when my husband and I started spending time together. I praise you, so wonderfully you made me. Wonderful are your works. And when we started talking about marriage, we talked about marriage in God's plan, in God's working creation of our bodies. And we decided that in accordance with that, that we would pursue natural family planning. So in what is modern natural family planning? We begin with fertility awareness, observing the signs of my body and recording them. Then we take that knowledge and apply a method so as to determine the fertile and infertile times. What is modern NFP? It is scientific. Our symptothermal method has a 99.6% method effectiveness rate. So look at this chart, and it shows you different method effectiveness rate, and this bright green line shows you that symptothermal method has a 99.6% method effectiveness rate. So what is NFP not? We'll use NFP to refer to natural family planning, also referred to as FABM, which is fertility awareness-based methods. It is not the rhythm method. The rhythm method is a calendar method that you might have heard people refer to, especially in past times. Rather, this is modern scientific fertility awareness, that uses daily information of your body. And it doesn't matter if my cycle's 50 days or if the next one's 42 days. What else is it not? It is not contraception, although some couples might use it with the contraceptive mentality. Rather, our sexuality reflects God's love and is to be life-giving and self-giving, a total donation to my spouse, and that comes from Theology of the Body. When John Paul II's talks. That, regrettably, took me years to get. The idea of it being self-giving and total donation. And Peg will talk about that in her future talk on intimacy in marriage. So let's look at fertility awareness. John Paul II says everyone should learn fertility awareness. This is just observing and noting the signs of the hormones in our body throughout the cycle. One sign is cervical mucus, which is a natural bodily fluid just like tears or saliva. It changes through the cycle from none to thick mucus to clear and thin during the fertile time and back to none again. Another sign is basal body temperature. That's your resting, sleeping temperature. There's a temperature level before ovulation and a slightly higher level after ovulation. The cervix, which is the opening to the uterus, also changes between the fertile and infertile time, and there are various other bodily signs. You've probably already noticed these signs as a woman, and without really knowing what was going on behind them. Maybe this list will just kind of jog your memory of what you're experiencing during your cycles. Here is a sample chart. See, from the beginning to the end, talking about the change in temperatures, basal body temperature, the change in mucus, cervical mucus, and the change in the cervix itself. Knowledge of our cycle can empower us and give us understanding of our body and emotions. And you saw those fluctuating hormone levels throughout our cycle. Every day, we as women, every day have a different combination of hormones on any given day. So look at this, how it changes through the cycle, our different hormones. So any given day, we have a different combination of hormones. And this, of course, affects our body and our emotions. So when we feel like a different person, or our husband thinks we're a different person on the next day from another day, it's true. But having it charted, like we saw on these other charts, this is an electronic chart, gives us insight into our bodies and our emotions, and gives our husbands a clue as to what is going on in his wife's body and temperament. We see how this type of information can be helpful to even young unmarried women, just to know their cycle without the knowledge, however, of how to use it with your spouse to conceive or not conceive. In my case, with my long irregular cycles of 45 to 60 days, after learning to chart, I finally had enough knowledge about my cycle that I knew when I was going to menstruate, and that as a woman is very helpful. There are also health benefits to charting because a number of abnormalities and conditions can be picked up from information on the charts, such as the length of the cycles, the phases of the cycles, the temperature rise, the mucus patterns and ovulations. So with a doctor who's familiar with these, it can really help as in interpreting problems with the cycle. So then from fertility awareness of our bodies, we'll jump to natural family planning. So our body is like the Earth's fertility. This is an analogy we made when teaching natural family planning in Guatemala, or even to farming couples here in the United States. Just as when the earth is dry, the seed does not grow. But in the time of rain, it sprouts and grows, and later the earth has a time of resting. So too with the body's fertility. There is a dry and fertile time, then comes a time of moisture, the mucus, and fertility, followed by another infertile time. The fertile time is when conception is the fertile time that conception is possible is only about 7 days each cycle, taking the fertility of the woman and the life of the sperm into consideration. In fertility awareness, we look at what we know from observing my cycle, then apply guidelines according to a method to determine the infertile and the fertile times. My husband and I used and taught a symptothermal method. Symptothermal because it uses different symptoms of the bodies, such as the mucus and the cervix and your general feelings, and thermal for temperature. So that sounds like a lot, but I love data. I'm basically a scientist, and I love data. So I like to write down notes in the notes section and keep track of all this. And my husband would say, just tell me fertile or infertile. Just I don't want all this information. Now you can enter the cycle information into an app, and it determines and displays the phases. Of course, you want an app that goes along with the charting you're doing and the rules you're using, and one that's been proven effective. There are also several long-term mucus-only methods, not just symptothermal methods, but mucus-only. There is another good method that combines the symptothermal observations with the use of a fertility monitor. The knowledge of mucus and ovulation can be used to achieve pregnancy too. Several of our student couples were able to conceive using the knowledge of their fertility. So if you have an infertility problem or difficulty conceiving, you chart. And then with either your specific methods, rules, you can attempt to achieve conception. You can attempt to conceive or with the help of a knowledgeable practitioner or teacher. And so in the case of us, we have 3 daughters. So we used our knowledge to be able to space our daughters. And then when we felt we were called to conceive again, when we were called by the Lord to conceive again, to go ahead and have relations during the fertile time. But also there's times when you're sick. One time I had a very high fever during the fertile time, and in the interest of not having the baby in the womb exposed to that, we would just abstain during that time. It's a very good skill to have and very good knowledge to have. So that's how we talk about after that. We talk about responsible parenthood. Practicing natural family planning presents the opportunity each cycle for the couple to prayerfully discern conceiving another child. It can be great for communication between the spouses. We always say to our students, if you can talk mucus, you can talk anything. At a time when we were hoping, at another time when we were hoping to conceive the child, we realized that it was a good time to space the child depending on our situation. And for instance, another young woman is stressed out emotionally with the children and their job situation, of the husband not having work at the time. They could very well, for their family's emotional and spiritual health, have discerned postponing conceiving at that time. And I'm kind of an earthy, natural girl. And so natural family planning is part of that for me. It was never on our radar to put carcinogens in my body. My husband agreed with that. And he was particularly inclined to follow the Holy Catholic Church, which for over 2,000 years has led the world to beauty and truth. So my husband tells the men about the realities of abstinence during the fertile, which is the most desirable time, and using other ways to show love for their wives and have fun. Our call to love runs deeper than our urge to use. Thus, purity isn't about dousing sexual desire, but setting it ablaze with love, from Theology of the Body. My husband tells them about modeling chaste living to their children, family, friends, to the world. Self-discipline of this kind is a shining witness to the chastity of husband and wife, and far from being a hindrance to their love of one another, transforms it by giving it a more truly human character. From the encyclical Humanae Vitae, which is of life, human life. Andy, a man we know, tells his story that he treated natural family planning as his wife's thing. It was his wife's thing, and he was antagonistic. But after a while like this, he decided that if he was not going to have sex, he wanted to know why. So he read the entire student guide to the symptothermal method we use and was converted. Even one day working for an NFP organization. Sometimes you'll hear that the only side effect of NFP is happier, healthier marriages, with greater respect for each other and greater respect for our sexuality, absolutely. Glorify God in your body, 1 Corinthians. So God did not call us to curse the darkness, but to be light for the world. And we are in a wonderful time right now in a resurgence and boom in fertility awareness and fertility awareness methods. It's everywhere. And it's green, you know? There's no chemicals, nothing, not a thing, no barriers, nothing but love. And it's pure, no chemicals, like we said. So try natural family planning, as it says, try natural family planning. There's an app for that, but caution, not like I said before, not all apps are really good. There are fertility monitors. That method I mentioned that uses a fertility monitor that's based on that uses a test strip and a urine sample. It's all over the web. You can find it everywhere. Again, choose reputable sites. Okay. This is the Couple to Couple League site. Real couples, real stories. There are, and Natural Womanhood, excellent for knowing your body and information about your cycles. There are virtual and live classes. This one is the Couple to Couple League Spanish class. You can do it in group, you can do it live, you can do it self-taught, anywhere, anytime. This is really exciting. Listen to as I read what Bishop Thomas Holmstead of Phoenix Diocese in his homily, God's Plan for Marriage says, when God's plan for marriage is embraced, when husband and wife intentionally decide each morning to make a total gift of self to their spouse and to be faithful in marriage until death, they become an uncomfortable sign of contradiction that God uses to wake up the world. When married couples simply live their vocation generously and responsibly, this is itself a form of evangelization, a witness to the gospel of Jesus Christ that our world desperately needs. And don't we know that right now? So there are resources I mentioned out there for you. The various methods of teaching. One is the Couple to Couple League, ccli.org. Theology of the Body materials, especially try Christopher West. Humanae Vitae, just Google that. There are pastors' homilies out there on it. The booklet God's Plan for Love and Marriage, and Janet Smith's iconic Contraception Why Not audio and video. So we thank you for joining us today, and if you have more questions or comments or need more information, there's the contact right there, a wise woman at stpaulscatholic.net. And we hope that you will join us next month for Peg again speaking to us on sex and sexuality in marriage. And you're welcome to share these videos, friends, family, anybody in your church. Thank you. Good day.